Think the 70s were all about flashy muscle cars? Think again. Beneath the vinyl tops and unassuming sheet metal lurked some of the most underrated performance machines of the decade. These cars didn't scream horsepower, they whispered it, then left everything else in the dust. From family wagons to forgotten coupes, here are 30 of the ultimate sleeper cars of the 1970s, hidden beasts that packed serious punch. Number 30, the 1980 Oldsmobile Cutlass Calais 442. The golden age of muscle cars was a fading memory in 1980, choked by emissions regulations and rising insurance costs. Most V8-powered cars had been neutered, leaving enthusiasts searching for any glimmer of real performance. Oldsmobile quietly answered with the Cutlass Calais 442, a car that looked like a stylish personal coupe, but had more muscle than expected. At first glance, the 442 wasn't screaming for attention. The squared-off design, chrome trim, and plush interior made it seem like just another well-dressed Cutlass. But hidden beneath the formality was a 350 cubic inch Oldsmobile V8 making 170 horsepower and 275 foot-pounds of torque. Modest on paper, but in a time when most V8s were struggling to breathe, it was a sleeper's dream. Paired with a turbo-hydromatic 350 transmission and a performance rear axle, the 442 could still move, surprising unsuspecting challengers with a 0 to 60 time around 8 seconds, quick for 1980. More importantly, it had that unmistakable Oldsmobile torque, pushing hard off the line and pulling strong through the mid-range. What made the 442 truly deceptive was how refined it felt. Most performance cars of the past had an edge to them: big cams, loud exhausts, and short gearing. The Cutlass Calais 442, on the other hand, was smooth, composed, and quiet. It wasn't built to dominate quarter-mile tracks. It was built to blend in. But when the need arose, it had enough power to remind people that Oldsmobile still knew how to build a proper sleeper. In an era where real performance was disappearing, the 1980 Cutlass Calais 442 was proof that a muscle car didn't need to shout. It just needed to be ready when the moment came. Number 29, the 1979 Chevrolet Caprice Classic 354 barrel. It wasn't built to turn heads. It was built to blend in. Square body, chrome trim, and an unassuming stance. This full-size Chevy looked like every other grocery getter on the block. But under that long hood, a 350 cubic inch V8 with a 4-barrel carb, cranking out 170 horsepower and 275 foot-pounds of torque. Not earth-shattering, but when paired with its relatively light frame for a full-sizer, it had some surprise up its sleeve. 0 to 60 in around 8 seconds. Not bad for a car your neighbor's grandma probably drove. Chevrolet introduced the Caprice in 1965, and by the late 70s, it was the top dog in Chevy's full-size lineup. The 79 Caprice Classic rode on the downsized B-body platform introduced in 77, making it leaner and meaner than its predecessors. While most buyers went for the base 305 or smaller 6-cylinder, the 354 barrel was the one to have if you wanted some extra punch. The 3-speed turbo hydromatic sent power to the rear wheels, keeping things smooth and simple. Compared to other sleeper sedans of the time, like the Ford LTD and Dodge St. Regis, the 1979 Caprice Classic 354 barrel was one of the few that didn't feel completely gutted by emissions regulations. It wasn't as quick as the turbocharged Buick Regal of the same era, but it could still put some smaller muscle cars on notice. Outside, the Caprice Classic 354 barrel kept it classy with clean lines, chrome bumpers, and a formal roofline. Inside, you got all the plush velour and wood grain trim you could want. This was still an era where luxury meant soft seats and fake wood. Bucket seats? Forget it. This was a true bench seat cruiser, built for long highway hauls. It was geared towards family men who wanted some V8 grunt without drawing attention. Today, these cars are rare finds, with clean units fetching anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000, depending on condition. Number 28, the 1979 Pontiac Grand Prix SJ301 Turbo. This car was a true sleeper, hiding something special under its long, squared-off hood, Pontiac's first ever production turbocharged V8. While most Grand Prix models cruised around with docile small blocks, the Grand Prix SJ301 Turbo packed a 301 cubic inch, 4.9-liter turbocharged V8, cranking out 200 horsepower and 325 foot-pounds of torque. That made it one of the strongest V8s in GM's lineup at the time. The result? A 0 to 60 sprint in about 7.5 seconds. Quick for a personal luxury coupe that looked more comfortable at the country club than on a drag strip. The Pontiac Grand Prix name had been around since 1962, but the 1979 model marked the final year of the third generation A-body before GM downsized it. The SJ Turbo was Pontiac's answer to the looming fuel crisis and emissions restrictions, downsizing displacement but using forced induction to bring back lost power. It came with a 3-speed turbo-hydromatic transmission, sending power to the rear wheels and a limited slip differential to help it hook up. Compared to other midsize coupes of the era, like the Chevrolet Monte Carlo and Ford Thunderbird, the Grand Prix SJ301 Turbo was one of the only ones experimenting with turbocharging, something that wouldn't become mainstream until the 80s. Visually, the Grand Prix SJ301 Turbo looked just like any other Grand Prix, keeping its sleeper status intact. It had a long hood, a sloped rear deck, and Pontiac's signature split grille. The SJ package added sportier Rally 2 wheels, unique badging, and a turbo boost gauge inside. But unless you knew what you were looking for, it didn't scream performance. Inside, it was classic late 70s luxury. Plush velour or vinyl seats, a wood trim dash, and a tilt steering wheel. Pontiac aimed the Grand Prix SJ301 Turbo at buyers who wanted performance without sacrificing comfort. Today, it remains a rare sleeper, with well-kept units fetching $15,000 to $25,000, proving that sometimes the best muscle cars don't always look the part. Number 27, the 1979 Chrysler 300 364 barrel. This was one of the last gasps of Chrysler's muscle car era, disguised as a personal luxury coupe. It didn't have the wild stripes or massive scoops of earlier Mopar legends, but under the hood, this sleeper packed a 360 cubic inch V8 with a 4-barrel carb, producing 195 horsepower and 275 foot-pounds of torque. That might not seem like much on paper, but thanks to a 3-speed automatic transmission and a relatively light curb weight, the Chrysler 300 364 barrel could hit 0 to 60 in about 7.8 seconds, making it one of the quicker Mopar sleepers of the time. The Chrysler 300 name had a long history, dating back to the legendary 300 letter cars of the 1950s and 1960s. By 1979, the 300 badge returned as a special version of the Cordoba, keeping the luxury features while adding a performance edge. Unlike the standard Cordoba, the Chrysler 300 came with stiffer suspension, beefier sway bars, and upgraded brakes, giving it a more planted feel on the road. Compared to other luxury coupes of the era, like the Ford Thunderbird or Chrysler Monte Carlo, the Chrysler 300 stood out for staying true to its muscle car roots. On the outside, it had the look of an executive's weekend cruiser, with a clean white paint job, red and blue striping, and a bold Chrysler 300 grille badge. It rolled on cast aluminum road wheels wrapped in raised white leather tires, hinting at the performance underneath. Inside, it was all about comfort, with plush bucket seats, a center console, and a leather-wrapped steering wheel, making it feel more like a Grand Tourer than a straight-line bruiser. The Chrysler 300 364 barrel was built for the Mopar loyalists who still wanted V8 power in a refined package. Today, it remains a rare and overlooked sleeper, with clean units selling for $12,000 to $20,000. proving that Chrysler's last attempt at muscle before the 80s was better than most people remember. Number 26, the 1978 Dodge Magnum XE 400 V8. It was a full-size coupe that looked more like a boulevard cruiser than a street brawler, but that's exactly what made it a sleeper. Under the long, sculpted hood sat a 400 cubic inch V8 pumping out 195 horsepower and a stump-pulling 360 foot-pounds of torque. Paired with a TorqueFlite 3-speed automatic transmission, the Magnum XE launched harder than anyone expected, hitting 0 to 60 in around 7.5 seconds. Quick for a big-bodied Mopar in the late 70s. The Dodge Magnum name first appeared in 1978 as Dodge's last true B-body coupe before the front-wheel drive era took over. It shared DNA with the legendary Charger, but the Magnum XE leaned into luxury, offering a smooth ride, a well-insulated cabin, and a long list of comfort features. While most drivers focused on its plush feel, those who knew better saw its performance potential. Compared to cars like the Ford Thunderbird and Chevrolet Monte Carlo, the Magnum XE had the advantage of big block torque, giving it the kind of rolling power that could surprise plenty of unsuspecting rivals. On the outside, it didn't scream muscle, but it had presence. The hidden headlights, sleek fastback roofline, and chrome trim fenders gave it an elegant but aggressive stance. Dodge loaded the interior with deeply cushioned bucket seats, wood grain accents, and a futuristic wraparound gauge cluster, making it feel more high-end than high performance. The Magnum XE 400 V8 was built for drivers who wanted muscle car power without the flash. It slipped under the radar as an executive coupe, but with the torque-heavy V8 and Mopar engineering made it far more than just a comfortable cruiser. Today, it remains a forgotten sleeper, with prices ranging from $10,000 to $18,000, proving that Dodge's last big B-body still has plenty of muscle left in it. Number 25, the 1978 Chevrolet Malibu Classic 305. It was never meant to be a performance machine. It was marketed as a comfortable, fuel-efficient midsize car, perfect for daily commutes and grocery runs. That's what made it a sleeper. Beneath the unassuming sheet metal sat a 305 cubic inch V8 churning out 170 horsepower and 275 foot-pounds of torque. Thanks to its lighter downsized platform and a 3-speed automatic transmission, it could hit 0 to 60 in about 8.1 seconds. Respectable for a car that most people dismissed as just another family hauler. The Chevrolet Malibu Classic arrived in 1978 as part of GM's shift to smaller, more efficient vehicles. While the muscle car era was fading, Chevy still offered V8 options for those who wanted a little extra punch. Compared to other midsize coupes like the Ford Granada and Dodge Aspen, the Malibu Classic had the right mix of weight, gearing, and carbureted power to deliver a surprisingly strong launch off the line. Chevy gave it a clean, squared-off design with a wide grille, rectangular headlights, and smooth body lines, keeping it low-key. The Malibu Classic trim added a touch of class with extra chrome detailing, plush upholstery, and wood grain paneling. It wasn't built to stand out, but that worked in its favor. Most drivers never suspected the sleeper had enough low-end torque to leave slower traffic behind with ease. The 1978 Malibu Classic 305 4-barrel was perfect for someone who wanted V8 power without drawing attention. It was the kind of car that blended into traffic, but with the right tuning, it could easily wake up and surprise anyone underestimating it. Today, it remains an affordable sleeper, with well-kept models selling for $8,000 to $15,000, making it a hidden gem in the world of late 70s performance. Number 24, the 1978 Ford LTD Landau 460 V8. This was a hidden powerhouse that looked like nothing more than a smooth-riding highway cruiser. It had the chrome, the vinyl roof, and the plush interior built for comfort. But Ford wasn't about to let all the refinement go to waste without some serious muscle under the hood. With a 460 cubic inch V8 pushing 210 horsepower and 365 foot-pounds of torque, this was a sleeper in every sense. It didn't need to look fast. It just was. By the late 1970s, horsepower ratings were dropping across the board, and performance cars were a dying breed. But Ford quietly kept the 460 alive, making sure this machine had the torque to move when it counted. That big block V8 delivered effortless acceleration, sending all that power through a smooth shifting automatic. 0 to 60 came in around 7.9 seconds, quicker than plenty of so-called sporty cars of the era. While other manufacturers were dialing back their biggest cars, Ford still gave the LTD some attitude. The hidden headlights, bold grille, and thick chrome accents made it look upscale, not aggressive. That's what made it so deceptive. Nobody expected something this polished to have real punch. Inside, it was pure luxury, with deeply cushioned seats, wood grain trim, and enough space to stretch out. It was built for quiet comfort, but put your foot down and it pulled like a freight train. The 1978 LTD Landau 460 V8 was for the driver who wanted power without advertising it. It wasn't built for burnouts or stoplight drag races, but it had the torque to shove you back in your seat when needed. These sleepers are still out there, often overlooked, but packing serious muscle. A well-kept 78 LTD Landau 460 V8 can be had for $6,000 to $14,000, making it one of the best ways to own a piece of Ford's last big block era. Number 23. The 1977 Mercury Cougar XR7 460 V8. It was built to blend into the crowd, but under the right foot, it had the power to leave plenty of so-called performance cars behind. It was long, smooth, and loaded with luxury, but its 460 cubic inch V8 delivered 202 horsepower and 365 foot-pounds of torque. Serious muscle for a sleeper nobody expected to be quick. By the late 70s, automakers were stuffing their biggest engines into their largest cars, but horsepower ratings were being choked by emissions regulations. That didn't mean the power was gone, though. The XR7's 460 was a torque monster, pulling hard off the line and hitting 0 to 60 in around 7.2 seconds, a number that embarrassed plenty of smaller, sportier cars. It wasn't built for track duty, but it had no problem flexing when needed. Mercury positioned the Cougar XR7 as a step above the average ride, with its hidden headlights, chrome accents, and vinyl top giving it an upscale presence. Inside, it was all about comfort. Plush cushioned bucket seats, wood grain trim, and thick carpeting made it feel like a premium highway machine. But that luxury masked the real story, a car that could move when the occasion called for it. The sleeper wasn't aimed at muscle car fanatics. It was built for someone who wanted power without the flash. It was big, bold, and fast in a way nobody expected. Today, it's an underrated find with prices for a clean one running anywhere from $7,000 to $15,000. Those who know. The 77 Cougar XR7 460 was one of the last big block sleepers before the power started fading away. Number 22. The 1977 Pontiac Can-Am 400. It was one of the most underrated sleeper cars of the late 70s. It looked like a dressed-up cruiser, but underneath, it packed serious muscle. Pontiac took the LeMans platform and stuffed it with a TA 6.6 400 cubic inch V8, pushing out 200 horsepower and 320 foot-pounds of torque. That power, combined with a well-tuned chassis, gave it a 0 to 60 time of roughly 7.1 seconds, faster than most cars on the road at the time. What made the Can-Am a sleeper was its ability to blend in. While the Trans Am was loud and flashy, this car flew under the radar. The white paint, bold stripe package, and rear spoiler hinted at performance, but it didn't scream muscle car. Most people saw it as just another late 70s personal luxury car, until it left them behind at a stoplight. Inside, the Can-Am was built for comfort, with plush bucket seats, a sporty dash, and rally gauges that gave it a proper Pontiac feel. It had all the power of a muscle car, but none of the usual flash that attracted unwanted attention. The 1977 Pontiac Can-Am 400 was for those who wanted muscle without the noise. It was a last gasp of real Pontiac performance before the horsepower wars cooled off. Only around 1,100 were ever built, making it a rare find today. Prices range from $15,000 to $30,000 depending on condition, but for those who know what this car really is, it's worth every penny. Number 21, the 1977 Chevrolet Impala 350 4-barrel. It was the kind of sleeper that didn't need wild graphics or a flashy badge to prove its worth. This was a full-size Chevy built for comfort, but with the 350 cubic inch V8 under the hood, it had enough power to surprise. Pushing 170 horsepower and 275 foot-pounds of torque, this Impala wasn't a drag strip monster, but it was far quicker than most expected, hitting 0 to 60 in around 8 seconds. For a car that looked nothing more than a highway cruiser, that was enough to put some so-called performance cars in their place. What made the 1977 Impala 350 4-barrel a true sleeper was its ability to hide in plain sight. The downsized redesign that year gave it a more modern look, but at the end of the day, it was still an Impala, America's favorite full-size car. Most people assumed it was built for smooth rides and family trips, never suspecting that the right option package turned it into something much quicker than it looked. This Impala came with a turbo-hydromatic transmission, sending power to the rear wheels with smooth but effective shifts. While it wasn't a high-revving beast, the 4-barrel carb and solid low-end torque meant it could pull hard when needed. It wasn't the kind of car to win stoplight races against muscle machines, but it could hold its own against plenty of smaller, lighter cars that assumed it was just another lazy full-size Chevy. Inside, the Impala delivered exactly what people expected: a spacious interior, plush seating, and a simple, functional dashboard. There was nothing aggressive about it, which only added to its sleeper status. Today, the 1977 Chevrolet Impala 350 4-barrel flies under the radar in the collector market, but those who know its potential appreciate what it brings. Prices range from $8,000 to $18,000, making it an affordable piece of sleeper car history. Number 20, the 1976 Oldsmobile Cutlass Salon 442 455. Oldsmobile knew the muscle car era was winding down, but they weren't about to let the 442 nameplate go out without a fight. Enter the 1976 Oldsmobile Cutlass Salon 442 455, a car that looked like a plush daily driver but packed a 455 cubic inch V8 under the hood. With 190 horsepower and a mountain of 370 foot-pounds of torque, this Cutlass could still throw its weight around. 0 to 60 in about 7.3 seconds might not sound like much compared to the muscle car legends of the late 60s, but in 1976, this was one of the quickest full-size sleepers on the road. What made this Cutlass a true sleeper was its low-key styling. Unlike the wild 442s of the early 70s, the Salon Edition ditched the aggressive stripes and scoops in favor of a clean, refined look. The fastback-style roofline gave it a bit of an attitude, but most people assumed it was just another comfortable highway cruiser. That was their first mistake. Oldsmobile offered a range of V8s, but the 455 was the one to get. Paired with a turbo-hydromatic transmission, it had effortless torque and pulled strong at highway speeds. It didn't need to scream for attention. This was a car built for sneaky speed, not quarter-mile glory. Compared to the Pontiac Grand Prix or Chevrolet Monte Carlo, the Cutlass 442 had a more subdued presence, making it perfect for flying under the radar. Inside, it was classic Oldsmobile comfort, plush seating, wood grain trim, and a smooth ride that felt more like a luxury car than a muscle machine. Despite its low profile, this Cutlass still holds a following. Prices hover between $12,000 and $28,000 depending on condition. For those who want a forgotten heavyweight from the last days of big block Oldsmobiles, the 1976 Cutlass Salon 442-455 is a piece of muscle car history hiding in plain sight. Number 19, the 1976 Dodge Aspen RT360. Dodge didn't need a muscle car badge to build something quick. The 1976 Dodge Aspen RT360 looked like any other everyday commuter. But under the hood, it packed a 360 cubic inch V8 with 220 horsepower and 280 foot-pounds of torque. That might not sound like much at first glance, but for a lightweight car in the mid-70s, it was enough to hit 0 to 60 in 7.6 seconds, faster than most people expected. What made the Aspen RT a sleeper was its ordinary appearance. It had just enough graphics to stand out from a base model, but nothing aggressive enough to make anyone suspect real performance. No massive hood scoops, no over-the-top stripes, just a basic-looking Dodge that happened to be quicker than advertised. The key to its speed was its power-to-weight ratio. Tipping the scales at roughly 3,400 pounds, it was lighter than the heavy V8 sedans people were still buying. Mated with a 3-speed automatic transmission or a 4-speed manual, the 360 had no problem getting this car moving. The optional Sure Grip limited slip differential helped put the power down, making it even more capable than most would expect from something that shared showroom space with economy cars. Dodge built the Aspen RT for buyers who wanted performance without the insurance spikes that came with muscle cars. It had a simple interior, basic bucket seats, and an optional tachometer, but nothing flashy. These sleepers never got the same recognition as Dodge's more famous performance cars, and for years, they were forgotten. But clean ones are starting to gain attention. Prices today range from $10,000 to $20,000 depending on condition. The 1976 Dodge Aspen RT360 4-barrel wasn't a muscle car. It was a sleeper, built to fly under the radar and surprise anyone who underestimated it. Number 18, the 1976 Buick LeSabre Custom 455 V8. Buick wasn't in the business of making flashy muscle cars by the mid-70s, but that didn't mean it forgot how to build something quick. The 1976 Buick LeSabre Custom 455 V8 was a sleeper in the truest sense. A full-size, luxury-focused machine hiding a massive 455 cubic inch V8 under the hood. With 205 horsepower and 350 foot-pounds of torque, it wasn't built for burnout contests. But when the pedal hit the floor, it had no problem moving its weight. At over 4,600 pounds, nobody expected this Buick to be anything more than a smooth cruiser. But thanks to its mountain of torque and a turbo-hydromatic 400 transmission, it could still launch with authority, hitting 0 to 60 in 7.5 seconds. That was right up there with some of the smaller, sportier cars of the time, but the difference was that nobody saw it coming. On the outside, the Buick LeSabre Custom looked every bit the part of a big American highway car. Long body, formal roofline, and a wide stance. The chrome trim and massive grille screamed comfort, not performance. Buick made sure it had a plush ride with a well-insulated cabin, cushy bench seats, and wood grain dash accents, giving drivers the feel of a luxury sedan, while secretly packing enough grunt to leave smaller cars in the dust. What made the LeSabre Custom 455 a true sleeper was how effortlessly it delivered speed. No wild graphics, no racing stripes, just a massive torque-loaded V8 hiding beneath a quiet, unassuming body. It was built for drivers who wanted V8 power without the muscle car attitude, and it delivered. These Buicks were overlooked for years, but collectors are starting to take notice. Prices are still reasonable, with clean ones going for $8,000 to $15,000. But finding one with the original 455 still intact is getting harder. The 1976 Buick LeSabre Custom 455 V8 wasn't built to race, but that didn't stop it from embarrassing plenty of so-called performance cars when it mattered. Number 17, the 1975 Pontiac Grand Am 455 HO. By 1975, the muscle car era was fading fast, but Pontiac still had a few tricks left up its sleeve. The 1975 Pontiac Grand Am 455 HO wasn't flashy, but it was one of the last big V8 sleepers of its time. While the Firebird and GTO stole the spotlight, this car hid in plain sight with a 455 cubic inch V8 pushing 200 horsepower and a pavement-twisting 390 foot-pounds of torque. It looked like a luxury coupe, but ran like a street brawler. Pontiac gave the Grand Am a European-inspired design with a long hood, sloped rear, and a distinctive rubber nose that absorbed minor impacts. It had the presence of a personal luxury car, but didn't carry itself like one. Underneath, it packed performance hardware, including heavy-duty suspension, front and rear sway bars, and variable ratio power steering, making it far more capable than most people expected. The 455 HO V8, though slightly detuned from earlier years, still delivered serious low-end power. Paired with a turbo-hydromatic 400 automatic, it could launch from 0 to 60 in around 7 seconds, keeping up with many so-called muscle cars of the time. While emissions restrictions strangled most big engines, the Grand Am's torque-heavy setup kept it relevant. The 75 Grand Am 455 HO V8 featured a driver-focused cockpit, complete with a sporty 3-spoke steering wheel, bucket seats, and a center console. It had the comfort of a luxury car, but with a clear performance edge. Buyers who wanted more could opt for the radial tune suspension package, further sharpening its handling. The 1975 Grand Am 455 HO was overlooked then and remains underrated now, making it a true sleeper. While many were scrapped or neglected over the years, clean ones still exist, though prices are climbing to more than $25,000 for an original 455. Number 16, the 1975 Chevrolet Nova SS350 L82. Chevrolet knew how to build a sleeper, and the 1975 Nova SS350 L82 was proof. It wasn't flashy, didn't have wild graphics, and wouldn't turn many heads parked at the grocery store. But under the hood, it packed a Corvette-derived 350 cubic inch L82 V8, cranking out 205 horsepower and 325 foot-pounds of torque, making it one of the most potent Novas of the mid-70s. At a time when emissions regulations were choking performance, the L82 engine kept the Nova relevant. A high-performance camshaft, better flowing cylinder heads, and a 4-barrel carb gave it an edge over the standard 350. When paired with a 4-speed manual or the turbo-hydromatic 350 automatic, this unassuming Nova could hit 0 to 60 in 7.5 seconds and run the quarter mile in the mid-15s. That was fast enough to keep up with some of the bigger V8 cars of the era, and thanks to its lighter weight and tighter dimensions, it felt quicker than the numbers suggested. While the Nova SS got a few performance touches, sportier suspension, front disc brakes, and an optional positive traction rear end, it still looked tame. No wild stripes, no over-the-top spoilers, just a clean, understated design with SS badging and rally wheels. The sleeper status was further cemented by a no-nonsense interior, featuring simple bucket seats, a center console, and a gauge cluster with just the essentials. With its Corvette DNA and unassuming looks, the 1975 Nova SS350 L82 remains one of the most overlooked sleepers of the 70s. Prices have stayed reasonable compared to other performance cars of the time, with clean ones fetching between $12,000 to $20,000. It might not have been the muscle car powerhouse of the 60s, but it had just enough firepower to surprise anyone who underestimated it. Number 15, the 1975 Ford Elite 460 V8. It looked like a personal luxury car built for comfort, but under the hood, it packed serious muscle. With a massive 460 cubic inch V8 pushing 220 horsepower and 365 foot-pounds of torque, this big-body Ford had more power than most expected. The Elite served as a baby Thunderbird in Ford's lineup, as the Thunderbird at the time was about the same size as Ford's full-size Galaxy LTD. That meant the Elite carried upscale styling and features, while hiding real performance potential. Given it shared its DNA with the Thunderbird, the Elite arrived with plush interiors, power everything, and a ride built for highway dominance. Ford gave it just enough aggressive styling with a long, sculpted hood, hidden headlights, and a sloping fastback style rear window, but nothing that screamed performance. At over 4,500 pounds, the Ford Elite wasn't light, but that didn't stop it from hitting 0 to 60 in a respectable 7.4 seconds. The big block torque made it effortless, pulling hard off the line while the C6 3-speed automatic transmission kept shifts smooth. While most people saw an oversized cruiser, the right driver saw an opportunity. This thing had muscle hiding under all that chrome and vinyl. Compared to other big V8 cars of the era, the Ford Elite packed serious power without the muscle car tax. The 460 was the same engine found in full-size Lincolns, making it a torque monster that could roll from a stoplight with authority. Even today, these sleepers are overlooked bargains, with prices ranging from $8,000 to $15,000 for well-kept units. It may not have been a track star, but the 1975 Ford Elite 460 V8 was the kind of car that caught people off guard. A big, comfortable cruiser with the heart of a bruiser. Number 14, the 1974 Oldsmobile Cutlass Salon 455 Rocket. By 1974, most muscle cars were shadows of their former selves, struggling against rising insurance rates and emissions regulations. But Oldsmobile found a way to keep performance alive, quietly. Enter the 1974 Cutlass Salon 455 Rocket, a true sleeper hiding in plain sight. The Cutlass Salon was designed as a European-inspired luxury sedan with a formal roofline, plush interior, and softer ride quality compared to its muscle-bound 442 sibling. But when optioned with the 455 cubic inch Rocket V8, it was anything but slow. This massive engine delivered 275 horsepower and 400 foot-pounds of torque, enough to launch this unassuming coupe from 0 to 60 in just 6.5 seconds, outrunning many so-called muscle cars of the day. Unlike traditional performance models, the Salon 455 Rocket didn't advertise its capabilities. There were no racing stripes, no hood scoops, and no aggressive badging. Just a clean-cut design that looked more suited for executive parking lots than street racing. But under the hood, the 4-barrel Rochester carb and high-torque camshaft ensured that this car could embarrass much sportier-looking rivals when the light turned green. The Cutlass also had the advantage of a well-balanced chassis, making it one of the more refined sleepers of its time. Equipped with power disc brakes, variable ratio power steering, and the rally suspension package, it handled better than its size suggested. Most buyers went with the turbo hydromatic 400 automatic transmission, but a few lucky ones opted for the 4-speed manual, making this Olds even more of a sleeper threat. While most people saw the Salon as a comfortable midsize coupe, those who knew about the 455 Rocket understood its nature. It wasn't a 442, and that was exactly the point. This was a car that flew under the radar, delivering muscle car performance without the muscle car stigma. Number 13, the 1974 Mercury Montego MX Brougham 460. Come 1974, muscle cars were fading and insurance companies were cracking down, but Mercury quietly slipped a monster V8 into the Montego MX Brougham, creating one of the most overlooked sleepers of the era. Most people saw the Montego MX Brougham as just another full-size personal coupe, big, heavy, and built for comfort. It had no aggressive styling, no racing stripes, no scoops. But under the hood was a massive 460 cubic inch V8, the same big block Ford used in full-size LTDs and police interceptors. With 275 horsepower and 395 foot-pounds of torque, this car packs serious muscle beneath an unassuming exterior. Paired with a C6 automatic transmission and a highway-friendly rear axle, the Montego had long legs, able to surge from 0 to 60 in 6.8 seconds. Shockingly quick for a full-size coupe, disguised as a luxury ride. The dual exhaust system and optional Traxic Lock limited slip differential gave it even more hidden potential. No badges or performance callouts gave away its secret. While the Cyclone and Torino Cobra got all the attention, the Montego MX Brougham quietly blended into traffic until someone underestimated it at a stoplight. The torque-heavy big block gave it serious pull off the line, making it more than capable of embarrassing smaller muscle cars that didn't expect a land yacht to move that fast. At a time when muscle cars were getting weaker, the Montego MX Brougham 460 proved that sleepers were still alive and well, hiding in plain sight with big displacement and no height. Number 12, the 1973 Chevrolet Chevelle Laguna 454. Chevrolet didn't build this car to turn heads. It built it to move fast without anyone noticing. At a time when muscle cars were taking a hit from emissions regulations, the Laguna quietly packed one of the most powerful engines still available. A 454 cubic inch big block V8, cranking out 275 horsepower and 390 foot-pounds of torque. That was enough to send this sleeper from 0 to 60 in just 6.2 seconds, making it one of the quickest full-size factory cars of its time. The turbo hydromatic 400 transmission made sure all that torque hit the pavement, delivering smooth yet relentless acceleration. Even with lower compression ratios and emissions restrictions starting to tighten, this car still had muscle car DNA buried under its unassuming exterior. While the Laguna nameplate replaced the Chevelle Malibu SS, Chevrolet never advertised it as a true performance model, which only made it more of a sleeper. From the outside, the Laguna looked like an upgraded cruiser. Chevrolet gave it a distinctive urethane nose, more aerodynamic than the standard Chevelle, but nothing screamed performance. No stripes, no shaker hoods, no wild graphics. Just a clean, slightly upscale look. Step into the interior, it leaned toward comfort with high back bucket seats, wood grain trim, and a center console. It was a car designed for long highway drives, but the moment you floored it, the 454 made sure nobody forgot what was under the hood. Compared to its rivals, the Laguna 454 had an edge in straight-line speed. The Pontiac Grand Am had a 455, but it wasn't as quick. The Dodge Charger SE looked meaner, but couldn't match the Laguna's balance of power and subtlety. This car was built for drivers who wanted big block performance without attracting attention from cops or insurance companies. Today, the 1973 Chevelle Laguna 454 is a rare find, with clean survivors fetching anywhere from $20,000 to $40,000. Most people don't even know what it is, but that's exactly why it was, and still is, a true sleeper. Number 11, the 1973 Pontiac Grand Am 455 Super Duty. Pontiac built this car for one reason: to prove that performance wasn't dead. While insurance hikes and emissions laws were killing muscle cars, this sleeper hit the streets with a 455 cubic inch Super Duty V8, putting out 310 horsepower and 395 foot-pounds of torque. That kind of power sent it from 0 to 60 in just 6.5 seconds, making it one of the quickest full-size cars of its time. Unlike Pontiac's loud and flashy Trans Am, the Grand Am took a different approach. It wore a soft Endura nose, giving it a unique, streamlined look. No wild stripes, no screaming birds, just a clean, aggressive stance that didn't scream performance. Most drivers assumed it was a luxury cruiser. They were wrong though. Underneath, it had a reinforced block, forged rods, and a high-lift cam, making it one of the strongest engines Pontiac ever built. Handling wasn't an afterthought either. Pontiac gave it the radial tuned suspension, a first for the brand. With stiffer shocks, larger sway bars, and beefier control arms, it didn't just launch hard, it could corner too. The Turbo 400 automatic transmission made sure the power hit the pavement, and an optional 4-speed manual gave drivers even more control. Moving into the inside, Pontiac played up the sleeper status with a plush interior featuring wood grain accents, reclining bucket seats, and thick padded door panels. It looked more like a European luxury car than a muscle machine. But when the hammer dropped, the Super Duty 455 roared to life, leaving unsuspecting rivals in the dust. The 1973 Grand Am 455 Super Duty is one of the most underrated sleeper cars of its era. Pontiac only built a handful with the SD 455 package, and most people never realized how fast they were. Today, survivors are rare, with values climbing past $50,000 for well-preserved models. It was the last gasp of Pontiac's true performance era, disguised as a premium highway car. Number 10, the 1973 Dodge Coronet Crestwood Wagon 440 Magnum. Most people saw this car as nothing more than a practical family car, but Dodge had other plans. Under the long roof and wood grain paneling, this sleeper packed a 440 cubic inch Magnum V8, churning out 275 horsepower and 375 foot-pounds of torque. That was enough to launch this full-size wagon from 0 to 60 in 7 seconds, putting it in the same league as some muscle cars of the time. Dodge didn't make a big deal about the 440 Magnum option, and that's what made it so deceptive. While other performance cars came with aggressive stripes and spoilers, the Crestwood wagon looked like something a suburban dad would take on a grocery run. But when the light turned green, it had the power to surprise just about anything on the road. The Torque Flight 727 automatic delivered power smoothly, ensuring the big block strength translated into real performance on the road, and the heavy-duty suspension helped keep it planted. Despite its size, this wagon could move. It wasn't just about straight-line speed either. Dodge engineered it for highway cruising, making it a serious sleeper for long-distance travel. Inside, it had all the space a family could ask for, with 3 rows of seating and enough room for a weekend road trip. But the real fun happened when the driver put their foot down, turning an unassuming station wagon into a muscle car in disguise. The 1973 Coronet Crestwood Wagon 440 Magnum is one of the most overlooked sleeper cars of the 70s. It had the power, the speed, and the stealth, making it the ultimate family hauling street machine. Number 9, the 1972 Ford Gran Torino Sport 351 Cobra Jet. Ford had something sneaky in its lineup in 1972. The Gran Torino Sport 351 Cobra Jet looked like a standard midsize cruiser, but under the hood, it packed real heat. Most saw it as a stylish daily driver, a personal luxury car built for comfort more than speed. That assumption was dead wrong. With the 351 Cobra Jet, the Gran Torino Sport was a serious sleeper, ready to embarrass more obvious performance cars at a moment's notice. At its heart sat the 351 cubic inch Cobra Jet V8, cranking out 266 horsepower and a pavement-twisting 390 foot-pounds of torque. Paired with either a C6 automatic or a 4-speed manual, it launched hard and ran a 0-60 sprint in around 6.8 seconds, quick for something that most people thought was a dressed-up family car. The quarter mile ticked off in the low 15s, making it a real problem for anyone who underestimated it. Ford introduced the Torino lineup in 1968, but by 72, it had evolved into a more aggressive-looking machine. The sport model featured a long hood, short deck, and a fastback-inspired roofline, giving it a muscular stance. The hidden headlamps and sculpted body added to the car's sleek, no-nonsense attitude. Inside, it had a mix of luxury and performance cues, bucket seats, a center console, and available rally gauges that hinted at its potential. Ford offered a variety of engines in the Torino, from mild 6-cylinders to the massive 429. The 351 Cobra Jet sat in a sweet spot, big enough to deliver real performance, but not so over the top that it threw up red flags. It was designed for drivers who wanted power without advertising it. Compared to the Roadrunner or Chevelle SS, the Gran Torino Sport flew under the radar, but it had the muscle to run with the best of them. A solid Gran Torino Sport 351 Cobra Jet can fetch $25,000 to $40,000, with top condition models pushing higher. Number 8, the 1972 Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme 455 Rocket. Oldsmobile's Cutlass Supreme was known for its smooth ride and upscale feel, but with the 455 Rocket under the hood, it became something much more than a comfortable cruiser. This was a car that looked refined, yet packed enough torque to leave muscle cars in its wake. The 455 cubic inch V8 pushed out 270 horsepower and 370 foot-pounds of torque, delivering a 0-60 time of 6.5 seconds. Mated to the durable TH400 automatic transmission, this power plant made effortless acceleration its specialty. Few expected a Cutlass Supreme to launch that hard, which gave it an edge against unsuspecting rivals. Oldsmobile kept its performance hidden beneath clean, sculpted lines and restrained badging. Unlike the aggressive 442, the Supreme blended into traffic without drawing attention. That made it an ideal sleeper. Nothing about it hinted at the power waiting to be unleashed. The Cutlass Supreme combined muscle with refinement. Plush seating, wood grain accent, and a quiet cabin made it easy to mistake for a luxury car. But the moment the accelerator was pressed, it became clear this was something far more serious. Oldsmobile's biggest engine gave it the kind of torque that required little effort to get moving fast, making high-speed passing and highway pulls effortless. Despite offering near-identical performance to the 442, the Cutlass Supreme never carried the same reputation, which kept it off the radar of most enthusiasts. That's exactly what makes it one of the best sleeper cars of the early 70s. Number 7, the 1972 Chevrolet Biscayne 402 Big Block. Few cars blended power with anonymity like the 1972 Chevrolet Biscayne. Built as a no-nonsense full-size Chevy, it lacked the chrome flash and badging that drew attention to more performance-focused models. But under its unassuming exterior lurked the heart of a muscle car. Unlike its Impala and Caprice siblings, which came loaded with chrome and plush interiors, the Biscayne was bare bones, often used as a fleet vehicle or budget-friendly family car. But when optioned with the 402 cubic inch big block V8, it became a serious sleeper. Factory rated at 240 horsepower and 365 foot-pounds of torque, the big block's real-world output was known to be higher, paired with either a 3-speed automatic or 4-speed manual, it delivered deceptively strong acceleration. The Biscayne's stripped-down nature gave it an advantage. It was the lightest of Chevrolet's full-size lineup, meaning less bulk to slow it down. Most came with steel wheels and dog-dish hubcaps, bench seats, and rubber floor mats. Nothing about it screamed performance. But, under the right foot, it could embarrass flashier cars at a stoplight. The 402's broad torque curve made highway pulls effortless, and minor tuning unlocked even more power. Some owners swapped in performance parts from the Chevelle SS or Monte Carlo, turning the unassuming Biscayne into a true street weapon. Few recognized its potential until it was too late. Today, the Biscayne 402 Big Block remains an overlooked performance machine. While collectors chase high-profile muscle cars, these sleeper Chevys still fly under the radar, just as they did in the 70s. Number 6, the 1971 Dodge Super Bee 440 6-pack. Dodge's 1971 Super Bee wasn't built for flash. It was built to surprise. Unlike the attention-grabbing Charger, Super Bee was based on the Coronet, a car most people associated with budget-friendly transportation, not raw speed. That made it the perfect sleeper. No exaggerated stripes, no aggressive badging, just an ordinary-looking Dodge hiding serious performance beneath its skin. At its heart was the 440 6-pack, a 440 cubic inch big block V8 topped with 3 Holley 2-barrel carburetors, pushing out 385 horsepower and a brutal 490 foot-pounds of torque. That kind of power launched the unassuming Dodge from 0 to 60 in just 5.6 seconds, faster than many high-profile muscle cars of the era. Quarter-mile times in the mid-13s meant it could humiliate big-name competitors without anyone seeing it coming. Buyers had a choice of a 4-speed manual with a Hurst pistol grip shifter or a TorqueFlite 727 automatic, both of which could handle the big block's torque. A Dana 60 rear end with 4.1 gears was optional for those who wanted maximum launch capability, and heavy-duty suspension helped it keep traction. On the surface, the Super Bee looked like any other Coronet coupe. Many were ordered in muted factory colors, and some came with basic steel wheels and dog-dish hubcaps, a setup that made it easy to mistake for a plain Jane commuter. Even the Ram Charger hood scoops, which were fully functional, blended in compared to the over-the-top shaker setups on other Mopars. For those who knew what to look for, a smaller Super Bee emblem on the grille and quarter panels hinted at its true identity, but to the average bystander, it was just another Dodge. That was the beauty of this car. It didn't need loud graphics or excessive badging to make its presence known. By 1972, rising insurance costs and stricter emission standards made sleepers like the 440 6-pack Super Bee a thing of the past. But in its final year as a standalone model, it remained one of the most deceptive street machines of the era, an unassuming Dodge that packed one of Mopar's most feared powertrains. Number 5, the 1971 Chevrolet Kingswood Estate 454 LS5. On the surface, this car was nothing more than a full-size station wagon built to haul groceries, kids, and cargo. With its massive wood-grain side panels and 3-row seating, it fit the image of a practical no-nonsense family vehicle. But under the hood, things told a different story. When optioned with the LS454 V8, this wagon had the muscle to outrun many so-called performance cars of the era. Chevy's 454 cubic inch LS5 Big Block was a serious engine, producing 365 horsepower and 465 foot-pounds of torque. Made it to either a turbo 400 automatic or a 4-speed manual, it propelled the Kingswood Estate from 0 to 60 in just 6.2 seconds, quicker than some Chevelles and Camaros running the same engine. A car this big, moving this fast, was almost comical, but that's exactly what made it a sleeper. Unlike the Impala SS or Corvette, the Kingswood estate was never meant to be a performance vehicle, which is why few people expected it to have that kind of power. Its sheer size, stretching over 18 feet long, further masked its capability. Despite weighing nearly 5,000 pounds, the Kingswood's massive torque made sure it moved with authority when the accelerator hit the floor. Standard features included power front disc brakes, heavy-duty suspension, and an optional 12-bolt posi-traction rear end with performance gearing. Buyers could even order the dual exhaust system, which gave it a deeper rumble, but still didn't scream high performance like a muscle car. Some owners even deleted the side badges and kept the car looking as stock as possible, helping it blend in with everyday traffic. Inside, it was all about practicality. A front bench seat, a massive cargo area, and an optional rear-facing third-row seat reinforced the illusion that this was just a basic family hauler. But for those who knew what was under the hood, the Kingswood estate was a rolling contradiction. A station wagon with the heart of a muscle car, capable of embarrassing high-performance coupes while carrying a full load of passengers. By 1972, rising fuel costs and insurance premiums made big block wagons a rarity. But in 1971, the Kingswood Estate LS5 stood as one of the ultimate sleeper cars, a true family powerhouse hiding in plain sight. Number 4 is the 1971 Ford Torino 500 429 Cobra Jet. It was as unassuming as they came, a standard midsize Ford with no screaming badging or flashing styling cues. It looked like something a retired school teacher might drive, but with a 429 cubic inch Cobra Jet V8 under the hood, it had enough power to run with Ford's muscle car lineup. This was a sleeper in every sense. Few would suspect that a 370 horsepower, 450 foot-pound torque sedan could take off from a stoplight with the force of a purpose-built performance car. At a glance, the Torino 500 was just another family-friendly two-door hardtop in Ford's lineup. It lacked the visual punch of the Torino GT or the high-performance Cobra models, but that's exactly what made it a sleeper. The 429 Cobra Jet V8 was no ordinary big block. Fitted with larger valves, a high-lift camshaft, and a Rochester 4-barrel carb, it delivered massive low-end torque and relentless acceleration. With the right gearing, the Torino 500 could launch from 0 to 60 in around 6 seconds, making it one of the quickest cars in Ford's 1971 lineup, despite its plain appearance. Backing the engine was either a C6 3-speed automatic or an optional 4-speed manual, both of which sent power to a 9-inch rear axle with available traction-lock limited slip differential. Heavy-duty suspension upgrades meant that while it was built for straight-line speed, it also handled well for a car of its size. In the interior, the Torino 500 continued its low-profile disguise. Unlike the sporty Torino GT, the 500 trim came with bench seating, column shifters, and basic instrumentation, further reinforcing the illusion that this was just another daily driver. Even the exhaust note was relatively mild, helping it blend into traffic without drawing attention. Despite its potential, most people overlooked the Torino 500 in favor of Ford's more recognized performance models. That made it an even better sleeper. A full-size looking cruiser with the ability to leave real muscle cars in its dust. Number 3, the 1970 Buick Skylark GS 455 Stage 1. Most people saw this car as a comfortable A-body cruiser, not a street predator. But when equipped with the GS 455 Stage 1 package, it was one of the most deceptive performance cars of its time. Buick engineers made their largest engine, the 455 cubic inch V8, and tuned it to deliver 360 horsepower and a monstrous 510 foot-pounds of torque, making it one of the highest torque engines of the muscle car era. Unlike its more aggressive GSX sibling, the GS 455 Stage 1 kept things low-key. No wild striping, no flashy wing, just subtle badging and a clean, unassuming design that looked more suited for a retired executive than a stoplight warrior. Yet, with a quadrojet 4-barrel carb, high-flow heads, and a hotter camshaft, This car launched off the line with shocking force. The factory 3.42 or 3.64 gears, combined with the available TH400 automatic or Muncie 4-speed manual, ensured it could hook up and deliver consistent 0 to 60 runs in the mid 5-second range. Buick may have been known for luxury, but the GS 455 Stage 1 was pure brute force in disguise. It was quiet at idle, smooth on the highway, and offered the kind of ride quality expected from a Buick. But the mash of the throttle, and it turned into a torque monster that can embarrass many well-known muscle cars of the era. With its understated looks and extreme performance, this Skylark remains one of the greatest sleeper cars ever built. Number 2, the 1970 Pontiac LeMans T37. At a glance, it looked like nothing more than an economy-minded midsize coupe. Pontiac even marketed it as an affordable alternative to the GTO, stripping away the flashy features and aggressive styling that typically signaled performance. But under the hood, when optioned with the 455H V8, it became a serious street weapon that few saw coming. This wasn't just any big block. The 335 horsepower 455 HO packed 480 foot-pounds of torque, breathing through high-flow heads and a high-lift camshaft. It was paired with a Rochester Quadrajet 4-barrel carb, sending power through a Muncie 4-speed manual or Turbo 400 automatic. With the right gearing, this plain-looking Pontiac could rip through 0 to 60 in under 6 seconds, catching unsuspecting rivals off guard. What made the T37 an exceptional sleeper was its lack of visual drama. No hood scoops, no wild graphics, just a simple LeMans body with basic badging and understated trim. Many buyers even skipped the rally wheels in favor of plain steel rims with hubcaps, further disguising its potential. The lightweight construction combined with that massive torque curve made it surprisingly quick from a roll. While the GTO got all the attention, the LeMans T37 455 HO quietly became one of the Pontiac's best-kept performance secrets. It was proof that speed didn't always come with stripes and spoilers. Sometimes it hid in plain sight. And number 1, the 1970 Mercury Cyclone GT 429 Cobra Jet. Mercury never had the same muscle car reputation as its Ford counterparts. But that's what made the 1970 Cyclone GT 429 Cobra Jet such a lethal sleeper. Marketed as a comfortable midsize coupe rather than a performance machine, the Cyclone GT rarely raised suspicion at stoplights. But beneath its long hood sat one of the most brutal big block V8s of its era, the 429 Cobra Jet. This engine was no ordinary 429. The 370 horsepower Cobra Jet came equipped with large port heads, a high-lift camshaft, and a 700 CFM Holley 4-barrel carb, producing a massive 450 foot-pounds of torque. If that wasn't enough, Mercury offered the drag pack option, upgrading it to a Super Cobra Jet with an oil cooler, solid lifter cam, and 780 CFM carb, turning it into a legitimate street brawler. Despite its potential, the Cyclone GT kept a low profile. Unlike its wilder Cyclone spoiler sibling, this model lacked aggressive striping or rear spoilers, blending into traffic with a clean, understated look. The hidden headlights and sculpted body lines gave it a slightly futuristic appearance, but nothing that screamed high performance. Most buyers opted for automatic transmissions and bench seats, further masking its capabilities. Out on the road, the Cyclone GT was deceptively quick, pulling off 0 to 60 in 5.8 seconds and covering the quarter mile in the high 13s, performance that rivaled Ford's own Torino Cobra. Thanks to the 9-inch rear end and optional traction lock differential, it put power to the pavement with minimal fuss, making it a true threat in unsuspecting hands. While Mercury never had the marketing muscle of Pontiac or Chevrolet, the Cyclone GT 429 Cobra Jet prove that sometimes the most dangerous cars were the ones nobody saw coming. If you're a fan of sleeper cars, muscle machines, and underrated powerhouses, hit like and subscribe for more legendary rides from the golden era of horsepower.